Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome to Raisin Bread. I can't talk. This is Basil. You know me, Mr. Clinically Depressed Malcolm X himself. Joining me, of course,
is most positive man on YouTube.
The most what?
You are the most positive man on YouTube. Don't undersell yourself.
Yeah, no, that's what people say about me when they say, "Hey, who's Basil?" They say a really positive guy, really happy guy.
Whenever I speak to Baz, I'll ask him how he is, and he will respond with everything from the neck down works. Which, aside from being very insensitive to quadriplegics, I still don't know what that means. I don't know what it means about what's going on above the neck, whether that means that what's going on above the neck is compromised, whether what's going on above the neck doesn't exist, whether you are nearly headless Nick. But you say that to me all the time, and it's one of those catchphrases that you are going to say as a grandfather, and your grandkids will be speaking for 8 decades after your death. Do we even now know what he possibly could have meant?
Well, Grandpa was in the food wars, and the water wars of 2035.
2028.
Yeah. Oh, so, man. You know, he saw some shit. And then obviously with me is my co-host, the RZA, the Jizza, the Wu-Tang Clan itself. Ben, like, subscribe.
What's up, everybody?
You know, follow us on Twitter, African Hodel for me. And Ben has words for Ben. What's up with you, buddy? How's this week going for you?
Yeah, this week's gone well. Up and down from the neck works fine.
You're doing great.
Good.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm. You know, it's all things considered, and again, as I've alluded to a lot of things that we can't talk about, which is why I promise to our listeners, I sincerely promise, one day we will tell the story of our first year of trying to produce a twice a week podcast. We just can't say all the details right now. If you knew the whole story, you would understand. Like our subscriber count is ticking up, which I am so grateful for every time. I feel like in light of Russell Brand's public execution, we should start doing what he does, which is introducing the podcast with hello all. Like he's able to say like 6.5 million awakening wonders. I wonder if we could go with like, so how many have we got? We have 265 at the time of recording this one. So we could say 265 cute little raisins. I don't know what we could say.
That's cute. I don't like it at all. I actually hate it.
Yeah, you don't like it because it's cuddly. So although I remember when I was coming up with a name for my business, like Baz revealed just how much of a 2005 hipster he is. Because I sent him all this list of names, and then one of them was Sandwich Biscuit. Like I was going to call it Sandwich Biscuit Limited.
It's a fucking great
name.
And
he was like, he was like, oh, that's a great name. That's such a good name. It's like, why? Because it's cute and it's friendly and it's delectable and it is.
Yeah. Like hey, where are we going for brunch? Sandwich Biscuit. It's like, hell yeah.
But then watch this, viewers, listeners. A sandwich biscuit in the UK is what we call an Oreo.
Okay, we don't.
Yeah, you see?
You don't have to
see, that's how you anger an American.
No.
You explain to them there's a distinction between biscuits and cookies.
No. What the fuck is an Oreo? It's a cookie. I'm not calling cookies
It's
biscuits.
A biscuit. It's a biscuit.
It's not a biscuit.
Snaps. It snaps, and it's got cream in the middle.
No. So what the fuck's a scone? What are scones, Ben?
A scone is like a baked good. It's like almost like a cake. It's like
biscuit.
A sweet bread.
That's
it's not a biscuit.
That's a biscuit.
It's not
That's the same as if I'm not cooking. I'm not calling.
I swear to God,
scones.
If we no.
And I'm not calling biscuit scones. I refuse.
We're calling biscuits, which snap. Yeah, they have this they have a clean look. Sort of when you break it, you have that really satisfying snap, that sound. With cookies, it comes apart. It's a bit gooey. It's a bit soft. There might be chocolate. There might be caramel.
That's a scone.
No, that's a cookie with the chocolate chunks.
No. That's a cookie with a problem. No, that's a cookie that's been created.
No, it's soft.
It's basically a cake.
A scone or a scone, as I would call it in my neck of the woods. But a scone is like a kind of. You even have them with. You can have sweet or savory. So you have them with jam or you have them with cheese. but you don't have them with gravy and fried chicken. Now I'm flying out to the States next week,
or being heterosexual. Yeah, none of
like
those.
We're Baz and I are actually meeting, and Ed, we're all meeting for the first time at VidSummit next week. So we'll see how that goes. Because Baz implored that when he and I were to meet for the first time, we would go get fried chicken with a biscuit, a biscuit. And
I said
I'm
waffles.
holding you to it.
Did I say biscuit or waffles?
Oh no, you did say waffles. You're right. You did.
I was
going to
say I'm not a biscuit man. Waffles are fried chicken and waffles.
So
that's what we got.
I have been starving myself all this week to prepare myself for my trip to the States, because I know that I'm going to come back 10 pounds heavier and probably on a myriad of medication.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Myriad of medication and $10,000 in student loan debt. You're like, you didn't even go. Cool.
Exactly. And I've also been, I've had it said unto me, I must return with a Stetson. Now, how somebody with my accent's going to get a Stetson through Dallas International, I don't know. But I've been told that I've got to do it because it's the most Texas hat.
Oh my God. It is the most.
It is the most Texas hat.
Let's both get some.
100% we're getting Stetsons. And cool. we can put a poll out on Twitter who suits it the least. that can be what we do. Oh man, and bolo ties as well.
Oh please, bolo, dude. No, we should do that. Actually,
we're definitely doing bolo
on the
ties,
days. No, all three of us. I'll fund all of this. We'll buy bolo ties, Stetson hats, the fucking shoes,
the boots.
We're getting the boots, the full boots. We're tucking in the jeans into the boots.
Damn right, we're tucking. I wasn't going to bring any jeans because it's going to be. Yeah. Bearing in mind for the Brits, like it's going to be an average of like 26 degrees Celsius, which is what 26.
What is that in real numbers?
26 C to F, so about 78 Fahrenheit. In Texas next week, in Dallas next week.
Well, that's lovely. That'll be great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like that's the average day high temperature during the day. The highest the temperature gets during the day in October in Dallas is around 78 to 80 degrees. That's really nice. That's so nice.
We're gonna have a lovely time. If you're out, by the way, the conference is called VidSummit. If you're out in Dallas, Texas, come say hi. It's funny. I don't know if I told you this, Ben. I actually tweeted out that we're gonna be there, and 2 people responded. I had no idea.
Yeah.
2 people responded, and they one of them DM'd me, and he's like a Twitter analytics guy or a YouTube analytics guy. He's small time. He's got 1,000 followers, but he seems really sharp. So come out, say hi to us.
No, for sure. And I really want to say this, and this is just me being a British ponce, but thank you to everyone because our engagement on our content has gone through the roof. Comparatively speaking,
unbelievable.
It's been so good. It really like getting to. I sound like every dickhead YouTuber now, and I don't think we were allowed to do that at 265 subs. But
we are.
It really genuinely means a lot because when you write stuff, we then know what you think and we know how you're engaging and reacting to the content, and so then we know how to steer it. So with that, shall we jump into our first topic of today?
Yeah, but I just want to say real quick, because I got a comment on my Marta video. I'm okay with Marta having curly hair. I just didn't know that white people could have curly hair as curly as that. So I just want to make that clear because someone was like, with white skin, really, Basil? And I was like, I didn't know that they made him like that. She's hot, obvious,
Ed, can we throw up that comment, please? In the edit? I really want to see this.
There was a guy who was like, "Oh, white skin, really? That's what you got out of that? That's what you got out of that video?
Yeah.
Not that.
Oh no! Don't do this! Don't do this! No, look, because a podcast that I love, right, and I mention all the time, the Weekly Skeptic. Nick Dixon has got into a real rut recently. He does they do a segment called Reviewing the Reviews, and he gets so angry at the negative reviews. And the bit that he gets really angry about is like when somebody puts a mediocre review but rates it 3 stars, because he's like, look, if you like the show, rate it 5 stars. Or sorry, if you don't like the show, still rate it 5 stars, but then give us your honest opinion so the algorithm still likes us. And he gets people going like, mostly okay, but here's the thing. And then he just eviscerates them for like 25. It's so polarizing amongst his audience. Like, I love it. I'm in the car retching through laughter at this jaded man who's a comedian of some 11 years. Like, he is one of, or certainly was, because he doesn't really call himself a stand-up anymore, was one of Britain's top flight circuit comedians. And he just eviscerates people with such verbal athleticism. It is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. Well, shout out to that guy. No, I didn't have a problem with her white skin, seeing as I dated her. Had no issues with that. I was just surprised.
That's funny. That's very funny. Like, you know when people, particularly when it's in the context of dating, for example, that when people want to have an issue with you and they want to say that you are one of the ists or one of the phobes, but you have dated somebody from a different ilk to you, shall we say, on a diversity quota. And there's that point where they go like, oh, you're so racist. Oh, no, he's not. He dated. Oh, damn it. Like, I can't use that attack vector.
Married. Yeah. No, it's just like that. Shout out to Hasan Minhaj, you fucking liar. He's a famous comic out here, famous comedian out here in the West, just real quick, who lied apparently entirely about a story about a white woman refusing to go to prom with him. This white woman later came, because she was racist, and this white woman later came out and said, I'm not racist. I'm literally married to an Indian man. Like, I just didn't want to go with you, which was the fun. Like, that is...
Although, I want to ask you what you think to that. What do you think to this idea? Look, don't worry, guys. We're Raisin Bread podcast of tangents. We'll get to the topics in a minute, probably the next episode.
Get that on
but
bear
with.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get to it, just not now.
yeah. But no, there's a really good up and coming podcast in the UK called the Domino Effect podcast, and they had Katie Hopkins on a few months back. And they were talking to her. She made a very interesting point about this idea of, I'm not racist because I have a black boyfriend or I'm married to an Indian man or whatever. And what she was saying was, then the co-host of Domino Effect said in response, well, yeah, of course, because you can still have prejudices. And she was like, yes, that. And what are you saying about people who are married within their own race then? Are you saying that they are then by default race? Like, unless you've married outside your race or in a relationship with somebody outside your race, does that then mean that that's an irrefutable evidence of your hardwired prejudices? Because I personally think that's a really good point from her.
I don't think it's an either or. I think it's I think there are people, but again, I just give you guys in the UK so much more leeway because, like, you know me, I've been around the world, literally. Mm-hmm. I've been. What's that old Johnny Carson song? I've been everywhere, man. Like, I have been. I've been to so many countries, and Europe. My black American friends get mad about this all the time, and I just never experienced the level of racism in Europe or in America anywhere else. Not Europe,
right?
Not.
And what do you mean when you say it? So, kind of, can you define it?
Oh, here's a great example. Okay, and I've asked you this personally before, and I already know your answer, and I know you're Ben. You always tell the truth, for better or for worse. You're like me. It's our greatest. Yeah. It's our greatest and our worst characteristics, respectively. Yeah. In America, this is actually a real thing. All right, what if I asked you're going to date a girl, and she'd been with a black guy before? Would that even matter to you? Probably not.
Oh yeah, couldn't give a shit.
Yeah, in America, it's a real problem. They get real. Mad. Yeah, and the only reason why I know, and it's stuff like that makes me less sort of forgiving of the Americans, because it's not like they're like outwardly. It's like small stuff like that, and I'm sure that stuff something similar exists in the upper classes in Britain, but that's, I feel like, more a product of your guys' aristocracy and the history you guys have with class, and the weirdness you guys have with that. But in America, that happens up and down the field. So that's why I'm a little bit more forgiving of you guys. I still think you can marry. I mean, I don't know. I still think marriage is a good thing, and you should marry who you want. I don't think your preferences in whom you marry. Look, dating is competitive, and that is just something you have to admit. And that's something people who are much older, Matt Walsh, just don't necessarily know, right, or
This
understand.
might be the first time we disagree on a recording. I'm looking forward to
Let's
this.
do this. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I will kill you.
I don't think it will be
I will murder you.
spoken like a true tolerant Semite. But it's
Yes.
like we have like because
Tolerant
so
Semite, by the
talk
way.
us through it. So
Hilarious.
what I know about the Matt Walsh story is it was a thing on his Instagram story, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of came for the kind of red pill clan, that kind of gaggle online, where what he was saying was, if you aren't encouraging people to foster stable relationships, namely marriage and families, you're not helpful. You are
That's
not
fair.
Yeah, which is fair. But then your point, as far as I understand it, just before we started the recording, and then I'll kick the ball to you, is how in touch is he to be able to what ivory tower is he talking, if there is one at all? Because I think you think he is speaking from his ivory tower.
I do think he's, and when I say ivory tower, I don't mean like an intellectual one, because he's out of all of those Daily Wire guys, I think he might be the least. And by the way, I don't think this is a bad thing. I think he might be the least educated. Remember,
He
he's
is, yeah.
surrounded.
Yeah, high
he's
school.
surrounded
That's
by,
it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
only thing. The last thing he completed was high school.
I grew up with bros like that. Those guys are still my bros. Like, it was like I was telling you earlier. The guys like Shane Willis, fucking Matt. Those are the guys I hung out with. Thing is, when I say ivory tower, I'm honestly referring to the time and space that he was able to occupy to find his partner. Right. How old is Matt? He's in his 50s. Let me look it up real quick.
No, Matt's in his late 30s.
What?
Yeah. Matt.
You are Matt Walsh.
No. Matt Walsh.
You are going to be Matt Walsh. You're going to be Matt Walsh. You are Matt Walsh. You are the Matt Walsh. Now I get why you're fond of the guy. You are going to be him, because that is insane. He's 5 years older than me.
Right. One sec, because I've just Googled Matt Walsh age, and the picture is not of Matt Walsh. I'm going to screenshot this now. Ed can put this in the edit, because Ed, you really need to see this. This is really annoying, because that is not Matt Walsh. I think that is the actor from, I know him from Ted. He is Mark Wahlberg's boss in the movie Ted. Baz, I've just sent it to you.
Holy shit.
That is on
that
Google.
Is the funniest.
When Google Matt Walsh, that is who comes up. And I think that is like a Z-list Hollywood actor. But so that's Matt Walsh. Yeah, he's 37. He was born in 86.
Yeah, he's born in 86.
And he's a father of 6 with a doting wife and a lovely wife. What I would say is he is manifesting the kind of outside in perspective of the American dream.
Yeah, and you know, he's I'm not 100% for what he says. You know, there was the crazy statement, the slavery might have been actually pretty beneficial for black people, and it's like, Matt, you're killing me right now. But other than that, when I saw him say that, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a long brunch tomorrow.
Oh man,
this is gonna be. But what? I'm not sure. I think let's see. When did he meet his wife Anne? Let's look at his. And I'm looking at Wikipedia. And by the way, fuck you, Wikipedia. What is he notable for? Anti-LGBT movement.
Of the 2020s. Of the 2020s. This recent, we're only 3 years into the decade, and apparently already this decade is going down in history as apparently having.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah. I don't think he's. Yeah, whatever.
He's been married for 12 years.
Jesus Christ. He's killing it. He's Catholic, so he's full of guilt. He met his wife on eHarmony. But this is
interesting.
This is interesting because no one uses eHarmony.
Not any. Well, do you know what, fellas, ladies? Maybe that's where the ones who are taking it seriously are. It's fallen by the wayside.
I've been on eHarmony. It is nothing but 40-plus-year-old people. This is back when I tried dating in my 20s, and you're right. It's full of serious people, but now it's just only the elderly, or I shouldn't say the elderly. Only older folk use it. but he probably used it when it was still very new. Is the point is, I don't think he was able to find someone on the cusp. I mean, eHarmony predates Instagram. It predates Instagram.
He met he said that he met her, I think, when he was 25, 24, 25.
Perfect.
So, and but then also the other thing is this is the big point when we're talking about something like marriage is we're talking about a sense of duty, right?
Yeah.
And therefore that has to kind of be underpinned by, but it helps if it's underpinned by religion.
Yes.
Because that's not to say
there's got to be a cornerstone. There's got to be a cornerstone.
There has to be a cornerstone. There has to be a cornerstone. And so because to your point, I actually, sadly, listeners, viewers, we're going to have to wait another time for Baz and I to actually properly disagree, because it turns out we don't really. But it's like with the Matt Walsh thing, I think I agree with his point about it's this idea that if you're telling particularly young guys to sort of give up. I had this exchange. I went to watch the Weekly Skeptic live a while back.
Shout out to Nick.
Earlier in the summer. Yeah, shout out to Nick and Toby Young. It was a great event. But then what I loved was there was a guy in front of me, young guy like 21, and we got chatting, and he said, "You know what I hate is when on the right, when you get an older guy telling me that the country's finished and that it's all gone to pot, like somebody in their 60s," because he was like, "I'm 21, I've got to live here." Like I don't, but I really loved that, because it was like I don't need your lie. I don't need your nihilism and your freedom from mortgage payments weighing me down.
Just keep it down, nigga. Like, I still live here. I'm gonna be here for a second. Like, you can't just
right. As in, he's just like, I've got the life you lived left.
So funny.
Like, I want to figure out a way to navigate this. I'm not prepared to just sit by. And to that end, I like what Matt is putting out there, which is putting out there this idea of, no, you need to, because what I take from it, and it, of course, a lot of stuff like this, when you've been a writer and a commentator for as long as Matt Walsh has, he's very good at writing things in such a way that you can interpret the message. Because also, sometimes these guys, particularly the Daily Wire guys, are very good at it. They're goose-stepping the mainstream media. And they're very good at that. And it's like, but what I interpret from what he said is we still need to be thinking constructively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, throwing in the towel doesn't do anything. And to that end, I agree, because like nothing annoys me more than when I'm speaking to like a sort of climate activist type, which doesn't happen often these days. But when they'll tell me things like, oh, because I went, guys, listen, I went to the Extinction Rebellion marches in 2018 in London.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was in my life. I went on the Extinction Rebellion marches. I hung out with people who didn't wear deodorant voluntarily. And and even then I didn't really understand what it was. But then even with them, like you'd speak to them and they'd say the things that they always say, like human beings are a tumor on the planet, a cancer on the planet, and there's too many of us. And it's just I did say to one guy, it's true to other humans.
That's just the cynic. Yeah, exactly. That's just me being.
But it's like, but what I was saying to this, I did say to one guy, and it was a slip of the tongue. And he just said, like, yeah, it would just be better if there were less of us. And it's like, okay, have you thought about starting with yourself? Like, because that to me is the ultimate ego. It's the ultimate ego-driven thing. The idea that, oh no, there's too many of us. So okay, so have you thought about doing your bit then? And so, oh no, not you. Oh, somebody else. Okay, so you get to live, and let me get my head around this. You get to choose who gets to live and who gets to die. There was a man in 30s Germany with a similar philosophy. And it's just, it does.
And he was right. No.
Shout out to Rumble. Thanks for hosting this podcast. Really appreciate you guys.
I can't wait. If we ever get anywhere, which we will, but when we do, that's going to be the first clip. There's going to be two clips of me. I'll tell you this right now. The first clip is going to be of me being like, was right. And no context given, right? Just like the other clip will be me quoting a joke, not even my joke. And it'll just be a clip of me watching a YouTube video of Koreans dancing and me turning to another guy and being like, what a bunch of Orientals, am I right? Those are the two clips. Those are the two clips of me, like, and I'm gonna have to like, and I'm gonna I'm gonna be in like a formal. I'm gonna be in front of a judge, and I'm gonna be like, Your Honor, I do not recall stating those. Yeah, it's gonna be. But anyways, you were saying. I'm sorry. It's just.
But no, like as in, I do understand the angle of, well, we need to keep thinking constructively. We need to keep thinking about, so to tie that up with the whole sort of climate activist types is like, oh, the idea that we're just terrible, but you're not prepared to do what would solve that problem if human beings are a cancer on the planet, which is get rid of one of the cells, i.e. you and your stinky non-deodorant wearing self. So you're a hypocrite. And then to tie that back up with this, it's like, if you're going to tell young men that there's no point to anything and they should just give up or give up on certain things, right? Like still build a business and still build an empire and go to the gym and get wedge, but don't focus on the things that are going to give you long-term fulfillment, like a stable relationship and a family. Don't do that. Then, yeah, I'd agree with Matt Walsh that you are, to use that hateful phrase, part of the problem. You're not trying, well, because you're not trying to solve the problem. You're in fact, if you're actively encouraging men to drop out of the dating pool, drop out of finding a partner, you are exacerbating the problem actively.
We do actually, we're on the same page on a lot of this. Where I take issue, where my pushback is, here's the difference between the climate change people and I would say young men. No one gives a fuck what young men think. No one gives a fuck what young men think. And the only times they do care what young men think is when you see the rising trends of conservatism, because that means, oh, they could be dangerous. The only time they ever pay attention to these boys is when they have the potential. They're reminded of their capacity to be murdered by. And that is in my eyes, that's a dehumanizing thing. So I only exist to you when I can hurt you. I don't exist in any other context. That's horrific. And the thing is that young men don't have the power. Like these climate change activists, there are people who exist amongst them who exist with their beliefs along the ladders of power. How many advocates are there for young men and their issues in power right now? There's one I can think of. He's not even in power. Jordan Peterson. He doesn't have a political position. There's another guy, Scott Galloway. He's like the liberal version. Again, no power. So who exists to address these young men's concerns? Because I don't think men are scared of love. I think they want love, and I think
they're craving it. They're absolutely. I think they're hoping.
Do you know how many? It's two things. One thing I'll say real quick. You know how sad it is that I've had not young guys, older guys tell me, man, I just wish I had a hug. Do you realize how crushing it is to hear that from like a 47-year-old man? All he wants, it's not even sexual. Like it almost brings a tear to my eye. It's like, I just wish someone would just, put their hand on my shoulder and just said, you're doing all right. You're doing all right, guy. And and that's what I think they're not aware of. The crushing lack of empathy that it's not just the lack of empathy. It's the lack of power. It all means, like, to quote, I forget the Democratic political strategist who said this. It's about power. That's it. None of this means anything without power. So you can say, hey, you're contributing to the problem. Okay, well, how are you contributing to the solution? Because no one is.
I'd argue in Matt Walsh's case, he's one of those who's kind of leading by example.
Sure,
because he has that life. And now the thing is,
but does that work on the
only issue I would say that I take with Matt Walsh some of the time is the kind of piety and the idea that he does. I don't think he necessarily acknowledges how difficult it is to obtain what he's obtained, because the guy, like,
6 kids.
Right.
6 kids.
It's
a successful career.
Right.
And I'm not saying this out of jealousy. I've watched his his documentary. I almost a tear in my eye when the first scenes of him just in his house with his daughters running around the house during one of the girls' birthday party.
It's brilliant.
That's my fucking dream, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had this with a friend of mine who had kids very young, like before he was 20. And had his first kid before he was 20, and then now has 3 kids now. And then he was with his wife. They got married 4 years ago, something like that. And then I met up with him once. They're playing in the park with the kids in like a May day, like one of the first nice, right, reliably nice days of the year. And they're kicking a football around. And I was just talking to him because he's one of the he does not hesitate to tell me how difficult his life is. And I'm sitting there saying like, well, take it from me, who's somebody who's your junior, who's coming up behind you. God, I want that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're winning. You're winning. Yeah, sure, it's
really
difficult. Absolutely, it's difficult. And this is what I think. Like, and I'm not saying that Matt Walsh is presenting some kind of polished image.
Sure.
I actually think he presents
He's a
quite
commentator.
he's a transparent guy. But it's like, and also he's very good at keeping his private affairs private. Because I imagine he must get doxxed every other minute. But it's like but then maybe that's something on us as the kind of commentariat trying to figure things out, to remember that, well, we're never going to find out how easy or difficult it is for him, because that's in his family life. And one of the challenges in the modern world is keeping that to yourself. Because when you are of his nature and you are of his position, everyone wants to dig the dirty on you and find out about you and air your dirty laundry. And so he's trying to protect that. But like you say, going back to your point about men saying, I wish I got a hug. It's also what's insane. And of course, Jordan Peterson has talked about this, because otherwise, why would we be? He said when he talked about how little encouragement, not men, but people need.
People.
Like, as in, like, it is honestly like, it's like a nuclear rod. The amount of energy that damn thing gives off, like when you give somebody a pat of encouragement or a phrase of encouragement, like, keep going, I'm so proud of what you've achieved. That stays with them for years. Like, they could tell you what they were wearing. They could tell you what the weather was like that day. They could tell you the geo coordinates of where they were positioned when they heard it. And they will remember it always.
Forever.
Because I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time. Like when somebody gives you that little compliment, somebody gives you a little word of encouragement, my God, it stays with you. But also it shows how, this is where I really do endorse what Matt Walsh is saying, is like, a lot of these guys aren't seeing the bigger picture. So we've talked at length or aren't trying to see the bigger picture. I must say that. I must be careful, because the way I worded it before implies that I have got the bigger picture, and I don't. But it's like, we've talked before about the kind of manosphere, hyper successful types, your Andrew Tates, your Justin Wallers. Andrew Tate different now with his newfound faith in Islam. But the idea of having quite. But it's like the idea of success in every domain through sacrifice, but for some reason you don't need to sacrifice fleeting, impulsive pleasures with women in order to sustain a healthy relationship. Or you can just have a harem. And it's like, and that to me isn't looking at the grander picture, the bigger picture. Go on.
I agree with you, and I apologize for cutting you off. I think the counter to that, if I was one of those guys, is, and by the way, I don't necessarily agree with this, because you and I have spoken at length on this. Relationships, they're a risk. And that's something people don't want to come to terms with. That risk can be mitigated, certainly.
You can say that again, brother. We'll cover that another time.
Another time. A bit of fun. A nice sweep of whiskey or absinthe or whatever's in there. And just
battery acid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm coming with you, brother. You're not going alone. No, that's the thing I think people don't accept. It's like you're a risk analyst for a hedge fund, and you're trying to find a bet with or less than 1% risk. And that's not a thing, because human relationships are intrinsically risky. Just you and me interacting. There, before we got to know each other, there was a risk there, right? And then you enter intimacy, and that risk is multiplied.
But it contradicts the thing that bugs me about it so much, thinking about it now. We started covering this in our episode with For Sure, with alphacology, with the idea that we look at statistics, which are things that have already happened. They are not the future. They are things that have already happened. And we look at ourselves as passengers of the statistics. And we're just at their behest, and we have to hope.
Right.
The bit that bugs me about, like, when we've got the manosphere types, when we've got the red pill types, and this is why I think Matt Walsh had a point. They talk so much about agency, personal responsibility, build that business, go out there, build your empire, don't stop, hustle, grind, don't take no for an answer, beat the opposition. But then with relationships, it's too far gone, give up. And it's you'll never make the change. You'll never be that guy. And it's like, well, who's to say that? How can you say those two things simultaneously. I'll be the guy in business because even though the odds are stacked against me, woefully there as well. Like, for example, what's let's say, for the sake of argument, because I can't remember it, the divorce rate is 50-50, right? Let's say that it's 50% marriage.
It's actually going down recently, which is interesting.
Interesting. But it's like, let's say for the sake of argument, it's 50-50. The chances that your business will fail is way higher than that. The chances that you'll be a millionaire, that you will fail in trying to be a millionaire is way higher than that. But they're saying like, no. With those ones, dispense with the odds, dispense with the probability, still go for it, king. You got this. With relationships, it is give up. You're never going to make it. So drop out now.
But is the risk the same? Is the question, and that's where if I was a red pill, if I was a red pill commentator, that would be my pushback: is what do I stand to lose when my business fails? I can file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and be back in my feet real quick. I remember I was in an Uber with a guy in Colorado, such a sweet, sweet old man. And I was like, bro, why the fuck are you doing this? If you were my dad, you'd be in my apartment chilling. You're not doing shit. You're an old guy. You've done your time. You served your time, right? And he was like, well, my wife divorced me and she took everything. She took his house in Miami. She took his house in Colorado. She took everything. And it's like, and now he's an Uber driver after working. This guy must have been he must have been at least 70 years old. And it's like, that's what I think people are scared of. Even with the state of prenups today, right? Prenups can get thrown out of court, or they can be changed. Even if you bring out two different lawyers, I have lawyer friends who tell me it's like, well, you have to bring a lawyer for her as well, and that's what protects you. It's like, okay, yes, but the judge still can make a decision and can change the condition. So to say that it's a 50% risk, I understand where that comes from, but I don't actually think that's what the numbers are when you really get into it.
We're on the edge of the Chris Rock joke about like, well, that's just the people who were brave enough to leave. And so, how many in the cohort that are staying together because they want to, or staying together because they're too scared to leave? And for sure that's true. But it's like the bit that I don't get is the kind of, it's for one side of it, you are relentlessly encouraged to have agency, and then the other side of it, you are told that your agency is gone. Now, for sure, it's also a lot more visceral in a relationship than a business. Businesses, you're dealing with customers. A relationship, you're dealing with emotional. Your counterpart, like your equal, and so you're on a level playing field.
Just kidding.
Well,
am I?
Yeah, okay,
go on.
Yeah,
so.
Sure. Yeah.
That'll be used too. That'll be used too.
Just in case there was ever a glimmer that this channel was monetizable. No, definitely not your equal.
I don't care about money. Who needs it? Go on. Sorry. Go on.
No, but it's like, it is this point of your agency, and it's like, no, you can enact change, but it's going to be difficult. Now, the thing that is absolutely true about this, and as you and I know this through personal experience, is people can change without much forewarning, and then the reason why this is why it does justify why it would send you so out of control is because you were so, like, for your 70-year-old Uber driver, for so long he was so sure,
and he was good to her.
When you're,
by the way, I just want to say this real quick. He wasn't even mad when he was talking about it. I was like, "You're a fucking saint. You are a fucking god."
But because what you actually are is you're not in a state of rage. You're in a state of mourning. Like, true. And this is what a lot of people don't appreciate. I don't think it's like rage is not the word. It exists and it comes in ebbs and flows, but it actually feigns very quickly compared to mourning.
I mean, I think about that guy all the time. He's such a sweetheart, and I think that's what guys are afraid of. And he had 3 kids, took care of them all. All of them went to college. I asked him everything about this guy's life because I just found him so fascinating because he was so sweet. He's an older white guy, with glasses and everything. He could have been a college professor, this guy, but he worked hard for 40 years, and he lost everything. And I think that's really where it is. I think most I'm of the thinking, and I know this to be true. My case study is for this is the Middle East. What happens in the Middle East when young men have nothing to do? ISIS. That's what fucking happens. That's what fucking happens.
Yeah.
You don't give them jobs.
Yeah.
You don't give them jobs. You don't give them opportunities. You limit people. Most people think in the Middle East, women are the ones who are. No, if you are a man in the Middle East, you are a second class citizen. If you are an unmarried man, you are a second class citizen because they don't want you near the women. They don't want you near the children. You are secluded to different areas, right? And then the opportunities to actually get married, which only come with certain things like economic success and stability and et cetera, the usual, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Those are limited. Those are limited opportunities, especially in those areas. And so the consequence of that is violent young men, because what else is there to do? I can't go to school. I can't learn a trade. I can't do anything to better myself. And oh, by the way, the only way for me to be able to have like access to certain literal buildings is if I'm a married man, because I'm not allowed in. What do you do in that circumstance, right? And so that to me is maybe an extreme example, but I think is a good example of the hopelessness that can potentially create. Because look, you can be Matt Walsh and have that much power and say you can do X, Y, and Z and you possess agency. And I 100% agree. This does not, to me, I'm all about the macros. Not everyone's Matt Walsh. Not everyone's like, and I'm not even saying this to toot our own horn. Not everyone's like you and me. You and I are of a special breed that will say shit even if people don't want to hear it. And not everyone's like that.
And sometimes it really doesn't go well. And like
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I have no idea what you mean. So it's been nothing but great for me. So it's I think I understand the skepticism ultimately of seeing someone high up there and saying, well, you possess the power. By the way, you possess the power to change the structure of these institutions so that I can be less afraid of engaging in them. But you don't.
Right.
You don't.
It is. Yeah. There's the question of what there's one question that comes to mind, which is really verbose. So let's see how this goes. Is Matt Walsh doing enough?
I think he is.
Right.
Look, I think
is it enough to just be a publicly facing endorser of the traditional setup with your Mormon level number of kids and your doting wife and your beautiful household? Is that enough? And it's like because for example on his show, and because I find him very funny.
He is funny.
I find him very hilarious. Wry. I love the ongoing saga before his latest set of twins were born. That he would recount this saga of him with his wife about how she was trying to fight the minivan, and he was like, "Just give up, just." Right, that's brilliant, right? And he was just there like, he's there going, honey, accept it. We've got to get the minivan. She's like,
no, I want a Firebird.
She's there like, I want an SUV. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that mum. He's like, and then he's there going like, you are that mum. You are already that mum. You're just that mum without. You're the minivan mum without the minivan.
Search your soul. You know it to be true.
Get the minivan. We need and the thing is, but that to me does way more now that I mention it. But then for us, humor is a vessel, and it really does communicate. Like it really, really does communicate what deeply what somebody wants to say. Like that idea, the satirizing and the accepting that you are that now. Because I imagine Matt, especially when you're in a long-term relationship for that period of time, he in his mind is very likely still 25 and newly married. Then he looks in the mirror and sees a 37-year-old father of 6. And so he's like, oh my God, I'm a minivan guy. Like now I love that. I love the idea that he's a minivan guy, and he's just accepted that because that's just hilarious. But then also it comes back to something that you and I champion over and above anything, which is I believe that is an authentic human being. And this is why I say that I still respect, because I do, your Andrew Tates and your Justin Wallers, because they are absolutely authentically them. As far as I'm concerned, I believe that they are authentically them. That said, I want people to be
Yeah,
encouraged.
for the-
I want
yeah.
people to be encouraged to because it takes such a little grain of encouragement can go so far. Because if anything, if we're trying to, I'm thinking about we're coming towards the end of the show now. I want to try and find some seed to finish on a positive note. It's when you talk about people feeling dispossessed, like young men in the Middle East, and how well in the West as well. Like in the West, the only time when they're noticed is when there's a recognition of the danger
Violence.
that they could pose. Violence, right? It's like, right, so you do count and you do matter. It's unfortunately because no, you're right. The dilemma is, well, nobody's endorsing you, and yet somehow you still have to move in the world positively. But it should be enough encouragement to know that you matter and to know that you will be noticed. But make it so good they can't ignore you. I don't know whether that sounds I don't know why I've gone down this motivational speech route, but I just because it's something I'm clinging on to be honest. I want to know that I can still do something positive. I want to know that I still can contribute something of value, and I do believe that the root ways that have been laid out by our forebears still are the ways to do it because we are the evidence. I guess I don't know whether I'm particularly good evidence or particularly strong, but
I'm not. My dad's a professor of mathematics, but go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So please like and subscribe so we can convince our parents this was worth it.
Yeah.
We
love me, love me, Dad.
Yeah.
Love
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, YouTuber is a real job, even if you can't monetize your channel. So shout out to Rumble. Bloody hell! Oh God.
You know,
where are we going with this?
Okay, look, it's funny. Okay, let me tell you this to people still here. We're going to talk about. we're going to. This is my like. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and I was like, he was like, "How do you introduce the show, or how do you talk on this show?" I was like, I ask people all the time why they're here, and he's like, "You don't do that. You don't actually tell people." I was like, "No, to ask them." Why are you here? You could be watching and listening to anything else. And he was like, he thought that was brilliant. And I said, hey, he was like, that's so funny. And I was like, no, I mean it. But
I already know that I have some sort of delayed onset disorder because going from the sort of stand-up transition to this, like what I do is whenever I try and make a joke in my mind, I'm picturing someone somewhere laughing at their laptop. Like that might well not be happening, but it convinces me to say what I wanted to say, and that's psychosis. That's hallucination.
That's no, it's not. We've gotten comments from guys in Eastern Europe telling us that we're funny, and it's concerning. It's very concerning, but it's also
Igor.
Thank you, Igor is wild. I think it was worse than Igor. I think it was like Yevgeny or something like that, and I was like, it's like a Russian finds us funny. That's amazing.
The sort of guy who could make a bomb out of an apple and a AA battery. Yeah,
and be proud of it too, and he'd show it to you, like,
and it would have Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah. And he'd show it around to his friends and be like, see. Not bad. French. I could join the French military, or whatever that fucking sect of the French. What's that sect of the French military where they'll just let they'll let actual murderers in? The French. Something?
Oh my God! What? I don't know.
There's a section of the French. Hang on, I know this French military, and then murderers. The reason why they will let anyone in is because your chances of survival they're like zero or something like that. They're the only part of the French military that are that one would fear, or that I would fear. The French Legion, yes, the French Legion. These guys are literally the Expendables. They are because they're built for. They're volunteers from all around the world. They're murderers. They're thieves. They're not civilians. They're people who had the choice between basically dying or mercenaries who wanted more, right? More of the fight in them. Chances of their survival, I think, is between 1 to 3 years. If you're in the French Legion for 5 years, you've seen some shit. Because I don't know if anyone watches anime here. I know a lot of you.
Yes, you do. There's some of our most successful episodes.
I don't know what you're talking. So they're basically the Akatsuki. They're the ones who get the job that no one else wants to get done. You need
I'll just make
someone
eye contact with the viewers that don't know anything about anime, which is me. How's it going, fellas?
We get it. High school was easy for you. The thing, yeah, these guys will do fucking anything. I don't know why I got into the French Legion, but basically, you were talking about positivity. I'll say this. I think you should still try. I, like you, would like to leave something positive, but God, is it a fucking slog? And people make it real hard. And I don't envy young men, and I'm not sure if maybe Matt Walsh is doing enough as a commentator. But until these people, your Ben Shapiro's, until your Matt Walsh's, maybe become a bit more. I think Shapiro might be onto something. I mean, he's creating a media company that might honestly rival Disney one day if he really puts into it. I sincerely believe that. I think he's doing great stuff. But they're doing things their own way, which I like, but still doesn't translate into power. And the most recent example, I think the most recent great example of this, someone who did this, and I'm not even a fan of this guy, but Rob DeSantis got rid of eternal spousal support. He's the governor of Florida, and he got rid of spousal support. So you no longer, as a man, have to pay, basically alimony or spousal support for the entirety of your life, which is the way the laws were designed before. So as soon as I see sort of more figures like that doing things, I think you'll slowly see men.
Because what do they? What's the old adage? Politics lies downstream of culture.
Correct.
And so,
yes.
But then that then implies that we need to make the changes individuals first, because DeSantis will be a reaction.
Correct.
He's now incentivizing people to stay in committed relationships by what he's done. And that is the nugget of positivity on which we can end this episode. I love that. Thank God. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, because I was going to go into 10 minutes about dating Asian women, and that I don't think would have been made for the same. I don't think it would have had the same tone. I don't think it would have left the people with the same impression of us.
So tune into Raisin Bread next time for the Asian women
why won't
special.
You let me do this?
Well, my God, that sentence just came out. Wow.
The Asian women special. I hope we can get one. Can we call that? Can I say that? Can we get one? Can
we get one? Oh my God, I'm signing out. I'm signing out. Oh my.
See ya in Texas, everybody. Like, subscribe. Love you all. Thanks for listening.